Sweet.
All right. We are officially live. My name is Conk. Over there next to me is Tom Bombadil. His name online. I'm pretty sure that's not his name in real life because that would be really crazy. Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to throw out this interview because Tom here, he's a fan of my show and the other Religion Zero and Rule Zero guys as well. And he put out a video that he's starting to change his thoughts on a lot of things, kind of had some life milestones recently. We kind of wanted to interview him about them. So, Tom, tell us about yourself first and maybe your background.
All right. Let's see. I live in Florida. I have on my University of Florida jersey, sweater right now.
Nice.
I was a religion major at University of Florida. Makes sense, religion or red pill. I'd be interested in this stuff. And when I got to University of Florida, one of the things I said was like, shit, this is like at the time the top party school in the rankings. Mm-hmm. So let me see, like, do I want to enjoy that, or do I want to, take all this shit, from youth group and like try and live that? So I got a religion major. I got really serious about my faith, and for like 10 years, I didn't do the party stuff. I basically didn't have sex. I was a virgin until very recently. I think that's what you're talking about with the video.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very it was a very interesting video because you've been around for a while. We've seen each other in, the chats, like we have common friends like Rollo Tomasi and Martin Life Dating John and all those kind of things. And from what I've seen, you were very staunch celibacy always, right? Mm-hmm. And you almost kind of got the vibe of like the, like you were saying there, like the youth group leader, right? Yeah. Want everybody to, kind of follow in line, follow the basic church teachings. Everyone else is kind of heathens and hellbent, right? When they think about anything other than youth group stuff. Right. And I don't know if you felt that, but I feel like that was kind of the vibe. And, some guys, like we were just talking before we went live that you and MLD have an interesting relationship and friendship. You donated money for him to change his ways, right? You want to go into that for a little bit?
Yeah. So like I came into the manosphere and I still am. Like I'm here to fucking, infiltrate it for God and shit. But, I was coming at it at a very adversarial kind of role. I think that's what's like given to us at church is like we're in this adversarial role. So I go on MLD's channel, and if you know MLD's background, he was in the Pentecostal church training to be a pastor. I think you were as well.
Yeah, I've been a pastor, but not anymore. I gave up that life, but
no, for sure. And then I come up in there and I'm like, hey, John, you were going to be a pastor for Jesus, but now you're a red pill pastor for the devil. And I was just trying to antagonize him, get his attention. And he's like, okay, bastard, like you donate $100 and I'll give my life to Jesus Christ right now. And it's all on video. I think it was a really fun interaction. I gave the $100 and he got up, he got his Bible, like his name engraved on it. And I think he read like John 3:16 or read the Lord's Prayer or something. It was great. And we're doing a Sunday. I'm actually going to be on his channel. We're going to be doing a Sunday red pill sermon. So I think something really cool started there, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I always thought that idea was interesting, and now it's also kind of funny because it's the same time slot as all the people here that know Religion Zero. It's in a very similar time spot, So it's kind of funny that we're both doing our own proverbial red pill sermons. But
it's an hour before you guys, so it's not too much of an overlap.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, MLD, he did come from the church, He was a youth pastor kid like us, and or a youth group kid, and he left it completely, I denounced the whole thing.
Right.
Me myself, it's more of I still consider myself a Christian. I don't like the word, but I do believe in God and Jesus and yada yada yada, right? And I
Right.
think the Bible's a good book. I don't know if I necessarily believe it's the ultimate authority of everything now.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it is 66 different blog posts, right? From different authors to different audiences and stuff. And it has a lot of good, valuable content, but it's not like, because I grew up Southern Baptist. There's a lot,
Right.
my family on my dad's side were all heavy Southern Baptist. And they, that church was like, they frowned on girls wearing pants and all of that kind of stuff, like old school Southern Baptist. And so they kind of are more on the more extreme of like, if you rip a part out of your Bible or you mark it up too much or something like happens, then that's like a grave sin. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's a piece of leather and pieces of paper with ink on them, right? It's physically a book. God's not going to send you to hell because your Bible got damaged, but they kind of believe that. And that's what I grew up in. So they were very staunch on their rules, right? But
some people think it's good if you have a very marked up Bible, right?
Yeah.
I think it means you've used it a lot.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people use that as like clickbaity titles. Where it's like, oh, the more beat up your Bible is, the better your life is, and yada yada. They try to make what do you call those, like bumper stickers out of it. But that really doesn't mean anything. I could just go buy some highlighters and ruin my Bible right now. That doesn't mean crap, right?
I did that with a skateboard girl. I was terrible at skateboarding. I like grinded. I had a World Industry skateboard. I grinded the fucking beautiful art to make it seem like I was using it and shit.
That's hilarious. Dude, the only time I had a skateboard was I got one for Christmas when I was 12, and it was a Dragon Ball Z one.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, it had like Goku doing a Kamehameha on the bottom.
Yeah.
And I learned how to ollie and go forward, and that's about it. And then I kind of just gave it up. One of my friends ended up breaking it, trying to ride on it like a sled down a bunch of hills in our neighborhood, and he wrecked it, sitting like right in the middle, and then did that whole thing. So
good way to go out.
Yeah. And I also had like a snowboard, and I used it like 3 times ever in my whole life. And so
where'd you get out?
I grew up originally in Missouri, and then I moved around a bit, and then I was in Colorado for like middle school, high school, summer college. So yeah, there's a lot of snowboarding places here, obviously, in Colorado.
Yeah, in Miami, so no fucking snow ever.
Oh yeah, you didn't get one of those land boards that you just throw on the grass or the sand or whatever.
You had like a skim board, or a surfboard or something. That's what you got.
Oh yeah, nice. So yeah, I wanted to ask you. You were, and I'm sure we can bring this up because you just put it on a public video, but you were 29 years a virgin, right?
Correct.
How can you describe that life to people? Like, did it make you feel good? Were you constantly frustrated? Did people judge you positively or negatively when people found out? What went on with that?
Right. I mean, a lot of people didn't take me for a virgin when I would meet them. Some people did. Some people are like, "Oh, okay, I could see that." It just depended on the conversation, but it was very like physically stressful. I just read an interview. You remember Lolo Jones, the Olympic athlete, Lolo Jones?
The name sounds familiar, but I can't really pin what they actually did.
Like a few years ago when Tim Tebow was bigger, as a virgin as well, Lolo Jones, she's an Olympic. I think she's like a runner. She's like, as of now, like a 36-year-old virgin. And she just talked about how hard it was. Like, I remember her saying, keeping my virginity is harder than the fucking Olympics, right?
Yeah.
That's been the same shit. That's how it was for me. Like, this shit was harder. I got into University of Florida. Like, I was a captain in my high school wrestling team. I wrestled in college. I served very hard in the ministry. And for me, like, because it was so fucking hard to resist my biology, I just considered that like this was the hardest fucking thing I was giving up for God. Like, not money, like not even time. It's like, this lack of sexuality, of like human touch. And I was very often physically miserable.
Yeah. It's you definitely felt like you were fighting yourself, kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like I was fighting myself, and there's like theology and doctrine for that, but it would get to points that just seemed like utterly retarded, to use the R word.
One of the R's. One of the
Yeah, right. So it just felt retarded, man. Um, I mean, I would wake up some days and I couldn't fucking move. Like my body's just horny, and I don't want to masturbate. Like I don't want to do that shit. Like that feels kind of gross at the same time. And so I just fucking I would have trouble getting out of bed. And I mean, I would spend many days very much just praying. I would go to Catholic Mass. Like more recently, like I went to Catholic Mass like 3 times a day sometimes.
mm-hmm.
In my conversion, I would sit in the Adoration Chapel for fucking hours at a time. I lived off of like very razor thin finances, and praying rosaries, all these things, which I think are great. They're divine. They're transcendent. But I was doing all this to try to like just resist my biology, and I experienced things too. I'm very big on like the experiential side of things. I experienced divine appointments, things involving even angels and demons and miraculous nature kinds of things. But the whole fucking time, like it just seemed like it took all of this to kind of come to a standstill with my fucking just normal biology that wanted to just have sex.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, man. So fucking
Yeah.
I've been doing this for years, and you think at some point, um, even if you read like Think and Grow Rich, different success, Dale Carnegie, some of these very highly successful people will say like the most successful people have high sex drives, and they will channel their sex drives into their success. And I said to myself, well, let me channel this, into serving God, which I think I did. But I mean, it just comes to a point where, your body kind of becomes a swamp because you're meant to have that physical release.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the way God made us.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, this fucking story's been in my head for a few minutes. I don't know if you heard of like Timothy Keller.
Yeah, I know him.
I was reading his book on marriage a few years ago, and one of the things he said is that when kids would go to college, like University of Florida, they would come back to youth group, because I was very close with my youth pastor. I had amazing times in high school youth group, even though like we weren't having sex or doing drugs. We had a lot of like really good wholesome fun. We really did. Fun
for the whole family.
It was, bro. Like we played fucking dodgeball and we did all that shit.
Yeah.
Manhunt, fucking, video game nights, like, Halo nights with the fucking LAN parties and shit.
Oh yeah, that was a New Year's tradition for us. We'd bring over like 5 TVs and 5 Xboxes and do as much crazy crap as we could. Yeah.
Yeah, you get like a sugar rush on soda, fucking, eat junk food.
Yeah.
It was very wholesome fun, like, I mean, the worship was fun. The pastor would give a spiffy message. It was a good time, like, and we felt like we were being good kids doing it, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
So, but Timothy Keller talks about like kids go to university, it's like, oh, they have to make their faith their own. And fucking they come back and they're like, oh, I have these questions about evolution and about philosophy and all this shit. And it's like Timothy Keller is like, every time he's like, oh, and are you sleeping with your boyfriend or girlfriend? Yes. Because basically the thing is people have this feeling that you have to choose either sex or spirituality or like Christianity. You have to choose one or the other. And I feel like what we're doing here, like Religion Zero and then the Red Pill, is we're trying to really thread that needle.
Yeah.
We're trying to thread that needle, man.
And I think it's really hard too because it's so staunch on both sides, right?
Right.
For the whole manosphere side, they're like, go out and get laid, whatever you do. Some of them even advocate, go grabbing a prostitute and things like that.
Right.
Get it out of your system kind of thing. And then the Christianity side is the, holy, devout. You will never touch anything ever. Everything fleshly is evil. You will die if you look at a woman with eye contact or a side hug. Right.
It's true, man.
Yeah.
It's fucking true. I remember my best friend who's like living with his atheist girlfriend now. My best friend in high school. I remember we were having the sex talk, and he was like looking at a woman's like reading a billboard. Like, you're gonna lust after her if you just look at the billboard. You're gonna read it. If you just look at a woman, you're gonna lust after her. And then in youth group, it's like, well, then you're committing adultery of the heart, brother. And it's like, oh fuck, what am I gonna do?
Yeah, you watch the wrong TV commercial at night, and boom, you're going to hell again.
Yeah, you're in mortal sin, or you're fucking, you have to be ashamed of yourself for like 24 hours now.
Yeah. People's definition of lust is crazy. Oh, that reminds me. I was going to ask you, when you're talking about, 29 years of virgin, what were your rules for like that? Did you even like hug women or side hug them or anything? Or were you just like no touch at all? Everything's bad. What was your thoughts on that?
So, I guess like I could go over real quick what my sexual history was. Like, I like kissed a girl my senior year of high school.
Sinner.
I know, man. That girl would have had sex with me. She was a fucking slut. I was clueless. Like her sister picked me up from my house to hang out with her, and then left the house with us alone. And I just sat there and watched anime on the couch with her, like completely clueless.
You could have made a move and sealed the deal pretty easy. You just didn't know about it.
I was praying for her in my soul.
Oh yeah, of course.
And then let's see, like in college, like freshman year, one of my buddies in the dorms like helped me hook up with a chick, and I touched her tits, and then she was like, yeah,
spicy.
and she was like, do you wanna? And I was like, no sister.
Well, did you feel like guilt and shame from that?
Yeah, I certainly did. And I mean the for me, I think there was definitely like a lot of shame involved, looking back at, there's like, I think I had a lot of shame that I found, through practicing chastity, so-called. I kind of like, I dealt with that, versus I think I had a lot of friends who kind of went the opposite direction, who they just went like, buck wild and started fucking everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like maybe I delayed it just for 10 years or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So when you were being chaste, to use the fancy term,
yes,
did you kind of feel holier than thou? Like, did you ever hold it over anyone or feel superior to the degenerate world or anything like that?
Yeah, man, you certainly do. And then you catch yourself doing it, and then you try to catch yourself in the step before doing it. And it just becomes this thing of like, yes, brother, I'm better than you, but I'm not really better than you. We're all sinners in the eyes of God. We're all saved by Jesus Christ. And it just becomes this like fucking mind fuck of like layers of not trying to be holier than thou. And the conclusion you come to is, I mean, really, it's all about Jesus Christ, right? It's like St. Paul said, I claim to know nothing but Jesus Christ crucified. Because here I am. I got really into apologetics, and
everyone goes through that phase right around senior high school, college time.
Right. Yeah. You get really into apologetics. You read like Lee Strobel's Case for Christ, or whoever the fuck it is, and you get really hardcore so that you can beat your friends in a fucking debate,
Yeah. Did you ever get the phrase "be a Berean" because they evaluated the scriptures and then logically decided it was true? That was like a big phrase. Be a Berean.
Be a Berean, brother. Show yourself studied and approved.
So stupid. It's so stupid in my mind.
Well,
But
it's like I like have great affection for all of that, but I mean, recently in past days, because it's only been like 3 weeks now. I did this like 3 weeks ago is when I graduated my V card.
mhm.
It's 3 weeks to the day. I really been meditating. Like, again, it's about Jesus Christ and Him crucified, and just to like really sit on that like a broken record. Like,
Mhm.
that's what saves us. That's the real deal. It's proclaiming Jesus Christ and Him crucified. St. Paul, when he wrote that, was kind of contrasting it to Mars Hill, I believe, where he was like reasoning with the pagans and he was trying to use their own philosophical systems. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
see you have the
And we're not talking Mark Driscoll, right? Different Mars Hill.
different. Oh, fuck, Mark Driscoll, man. Did you ever read that guy's book?
No, I think I learned enough just seeing him from afar.
He was talking about, he was like counseling like Christian couples. Apparently, you would have these couples where the wives were like really horny, but then his wife didn't want to touch him. It's just really weird shit when you study like these different Christian cultures. Really weird shit starts to happen.
Yeah,
Like anti-biology.
yeah. And it's very interesting too because you're like both of us, our background started with the Christian narrative, and then as we've read, like I'm sure you've read, Rational Male by Rollo Tomasi,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. So now we like a lot of people start with the normal beta blue pill stuff, then Rollo Tomasi, and then evaluate Christianity off of that. But I think we have a very different perspective where a lot of us started in the Christianity version of blue pill. It's
yeah,
very different than the American one, right? And then now we're reading that through that lens, right? So you definitely come to very different conclusions, and it's very interesting. Like looking at Mark Driscoll and like being able to now thinking about him before when you first were introduced to him versus now after reading The Rational Male, you can see a lot of the pitfalls he ran into, right? Of
yeah.
why his life sucks.
It's very blue pill thinking.
Yeah, he was very, like a lot of people, especially the trad cons, the traditional conservatives, they were always like had a hard on for him because he's like, be a Chad and lift weights and drive a big truck and be the man of the house. But his definition of man of the house is, serve everybody, to the point of death. You know what I mean?
He's a paper alpha. He's a blue pilled alpha.
Yeah, exactly. He still fully believed in you have to get married, have 2.5 kids, a white picket fence, but you're the manly version of that with a man cave, right? I'm going to do my chores manly.
Yeah, I'm going to be very manly when I make sure my wife comes first. I'm going to be very manly about it. Like
exactly, yeah. And so he just had the cool Chad flavor of still, simping at the end of the day.
It's still simping at the end of the day. And you know what happened is, I mean, he kind of had a breakdown. He was taking it out on his inner leaders. He would just kind of go off on them, and I would too if I had all that weight on me and a blue pilled marriage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's such a weird contradiction, and that kind of goes into like he was trying to live an ideology, and he was trying to force himself into his ideology. I have to do this for the good of everybody, and I have to do this for that. But like, you don't. Right?
Well, and he had an amazing church. Mars Hill grew out of his basement, kind of like where you're at now. He just started in his fucking basement in Seattle, a highly unchurched. I mean, they fucking need it. Look at them right now.
Yeah. I've got family in Seattle. I don't like visiting.
Like they fucking need it, but look, that faulty assumption, like caused the whole fucking thing to crack from the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's still out there, but he's nowhere near what he used to have because he had that breakdown. And I could just see Rollo. Rollo has dissected it. Like he dissects everything, and if he was putting himself at his mental point of origin and just getting his wife to fuck him, maybe he would have been more evened out to lead his church and not take it out on his leaders.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility because we saw a lot of negatives, which means he picked the wrong choice, right? He let his I'm the Chad servant ideology dictate his real life, and it didn't end well, right?
Let me put it from my personal recent experience. I was the manager of a Catholic bookstore until very recently. We're still on good terms, but there was, you know, this girl working there, 18-year-old, part of like an 8-member family, just like perfect virgin Catholic girl. They do exist. I know there's a lot of cynicism. Yeah. Like this girl is like perfect, and I'm managing her, and I'm a lazy ass manager because I'm horny and frustrated all the time. So I sit in the back, but I make it part of my persona. Like, oh yeah, Tom, he's doing something back there. But you know, like I interact with her one day, and I know this is stemming from sexual frustration. But you know, with kids, I worked with kids before. Like you pushed their buttons, but like I pushed her buttons too. I said at one point, you know, just like, you know, like, oh, so what are your plans? Like, you know, are you going to college? Like, you're doing this, you're doing that. Like, you know, are you going to have a big family like the one you have? And I think at some point I said, like, you know, like she wasn't like, I think she wanted to have a few exploratory years. And I'm like, you know, like, well, hey, you're a baby making factory. We're Catholics here. You know, you're a baby making factory. And I mean, she was, you know, you're an 18-year-old girl from like a 29-year-old man. Like that's an intense thing. And she talked to the owner, you know, everything was cool, but it was like, I knew, like, I did that because I was sexually frustrated, like, versus now that like I'm getting human touch, I'm getting, you know, like ethical sexual interactions. Like I would never do that. Like I'm much more even keel. And I think that's a microcosm of shit that we probably see in the church all the time right now.
Yeah, exactly. Which kind of leads me to my next point. When you were talking in your video, and I'll probably throw the link in the description for people watching the replay, knowing what video we're talking about. I'll link it down there for you guys. But you quoted specifically that you lost your virginity because God led you there. Mm-hmm. What did you mean by that? And have you gotten a lot of shit for saying that?
I got a lot of shit for that video. I edited out the first minute because I brought up somebody, but like the whole reason I'm fucking Tom Bombadil is because I'm exploring these topics away from like my meat space, real life, you know, congregation. But I really feel like God led me to this point. And, you know, I think God led me to you guys with Religion Zero, you know, Brooke, Bobby, Amos. And certainly there's certain scriptures that just have been burning in my mind for years. Such as when St. Paul says in Corinthians, he says all things are permissible, you know, because when the gospel was initially preached, it was such a radical grace message, like utterly radical, from, you know, these 613 Jewish laws to like now we fucking we're under grace, you know, and he said to the Corinthians, like he commended them that they had liberality, they had the spiritual gifts in operation, and they had just this sense of liberality, like as opposed to the Galatians who went back to circumcision. The fucking Corinthians, you know, there was this guy in there that he slept with his, you know, his mother-in-law. That's the context of that verse. And St. Paul is like, yeah, like you can't sleep with your mother-in-law. That fucks up social cohesion. And and for me, like I really started to see, because you know, we have a very individualistic perspective as like Western Americans in the 21st century.
Yeah.
But the vast like of human history, you know, it's been about tribal and human cohesion. And I think you touched on that, Conk, when you know, when I would argue with you a bit about sexual rules in the Old Testament. I think you were kind of pointing out that this is to create, you know, tribal cohesion in the fucking tribe of Israel back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like their version of patriarchy was literally the families. Like right now, when we talk about patriarchy, we're talking about, or people bring it up as like, oh, the big man oppression of the government and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the Old Testament, like the government really didn't do a whole lot. There, like most of the time there wasn't even government. It was just you and your family. it was literal patriarchy, as in you had dad, main wife, backup wives and concubines, sons, and like your business was your family and your government was your family.
Correct.
And I think that's interesting because when we had Abu American on a couple weeks ago, they have a very similar lifestyle, right?
Right.
They have their literal patriarchy of literally it's a dad, wives, kids. You know what I mean? And that's your unit. That's your cohesive unit there, right? And
Correct.
kind of fuck everybody else, right?
Correct.
That's not my circus or my monkeys, right?
And that's middle point of origin for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So fucking here we are, jump to the 21st century. I mean, we've had, the birth control pill, we've had female sexual liberation. Like these women, we talk about them being property of the game, but I mean, these women aren't my tribe. Like the 4 women I've slept with and a spare blowjob.
There's a little half point up there. There's a little
yeah, like these women, they're not my tribe. Like they're all children of God, don't get me wrong, but like we're not forming this like cohesive tribe. Like we're all trying to fucking figure this shit out. I mean, as much as you want to quote Ecclesiastes that nothing is new under the sun, as far as we fucking know, this is some new stuff under the sun right now that we're dealing with, recorded human history.
Yeah, like I've talked about it before a couple times on the religion show of like, if we were trying to follow the biblical law for all relationships, like there's 8 different ways you're going to jail. Because A, she's 12, and B, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. There's gotta be some gray areas and wiggle rooms there. It's not a direct translation, from then, right?
Can't you like fucking stone her if she's not a virgin, but she said she was, like?
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting rules, or sell her to slavery, or have her go marry, somebody that owes you money and all of that kind of crap, right?
Yeah, you could stone a woman if she claimed to be a virgin and she wasn't on the wedding night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're living under this radical grace message that we really need to receive it. If we want to, attain it, you have to receive that grace message to make it your own. And these women you hear in church, like, oh, you're hurting them.
Thank you, Heather. Yeah, it's gonna happen a lot. That's my life.
Thank you, Heather. It's gonna happen a lot. So, are we hurting these women? Well, just study Rollo's brother-in-law. A lot of men are getting hurt, and the men are the backbone of the society. So if you fuck the men up, the women are gonna get hurt even more. You have to build up your men first, and we have a lot of things that are just completely backwards right now.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that, and that's kind of that, like those cycles that humans go through. People have heard all the time. It's like hard times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. Weak men create hard times.
Right.
Kind of thing. And we're definitely in that weak men cycle.
Right.
I don't think we're at the hard times yet. I think we'll probably get there pretty damn soon, but we're not there yet. But we've definitely been training up weak men, right? Because we've had it so easy on the backs of other people.
Right. And like you and you're not a weak man. I'm not a weak man because we're bettering ourselves. But this is what the Bible says. The Bible says, make straight the way of the Lord. Like it talks about making the crooked paths straight. And I think this is directly related to such as electing Donald Trump for president. Is he a pastor? The evangelical position right now, like we're not electing a pastor. Like, no, he's not. He's the man that's going to get the job done. And I think in the red pill, in the manosphere, this religion zero, I think what we're seeking to do is to raise up men who are going to get the job done, because we wanted to walk the paths that were straight. We wanted, a marriage and a perfect Disney blue-pilled relationship.
Yeah. We bought the narrative as kids that was pushed down our throats, right?
That's why I gave up. I graduated my virginity is because at 29, going fucking, having to shave my head, like inflammation in my fucking face. It's like I was never gonna have that fucking Facebook photo of my church wedding with my wife. Like that was gone, completely gone. And if I believe in a God that knows the number of hairs in my head, I believe in, you know,
which right now is 0. That's pretty easy to count.
well, they're saved really low.
Yeah.
If I believe it, if I'm at church and all these happy wife, happy life guys say, well, God put her in my life, but then you do this double speak where you're like, yeah, but you know, you have to accept she's not going to be a virgin, and it's not going to actually be that special one. You just got to make a good decision to pick one based on logic and reason coming up out of the Bible. Like, it's like, no, fuck that. That's lame. I'm not gonna like.
Yeah, it's like justification for compromise, right?
Fuck that.
They got all these little excuses and side picks of why it wasn't perfect and why the ideal is still true, but maybe not this time. I can conform a little bit to the world here and there, you know. And so the idea of like they're still trying to keep the dream true through a bunch of little justifications here and there, right? And they're kind of refusing to admit they're not compatible, right?
It's over. Like that blue pill shit from youth group that I was holding on to. I turned 29 and I'm like, that shit's over. That's gone. Mm-hmm. It's dead. It's fucking dead. So, you know, like I wish it was true. Like I know virgin girls right now that, you know, I could have possibly married, but it wasn't like God was connecting us. I would have had to like Rich says, I would have to do the work. I would have to game them. Like if we believe in, you know, an all-powerful God, which I do, and we believe in supernatural divine appointments, which I do, which I live it. But when it came to my love life, it just wasn't happening. I was getting a lot of bitchiness. I was getting a lot of shit tests. I was getting a lot of resistance that, you know, it wasn't the love of Christ. Like this girl, you know, I was dating, she was a 25-year-old Puerto Rican virgin, fucking beautiful girl. You know, we would hang out. We'd like buy a homeless person Pollo Tropical and hang out with them. But then when it came back to me, her in the car, she would clam up, you know, it's just like, oh, you know, like, I don't know, you know, you're not that great of a guy. I mean, you're a great servant of Christ with this homeless person, but I don't want to kiss you. And fucking this exact same girl had never kissed a guy till 25, you know, whatever her issues were. She fucking kissed some other random ass guy a few weeks later when I really started to pursue her, which is just that's just typical, you know, just typical female nature. And just like I wanted it to be true, but it wasn't. And at some point you have to face, you know, reality. And the facts are, if you want to be at all competent as a man in this day and age, you have to go out and have sex with a lot of women and learn to interact with them.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an aspect or a way to take it, right?
Yeah,
and it sounds like that's the way you're taking it, right?
Yeah,
I think there is multiple ways to your own self-actualization, right?
Yeah,
because I feel like in both sides, obviously the Christian blue pill narrative forces you into a door you don't necessarily want to go through. Right. But likewise, if you go to the other extreme of full-on hedonism, that in itself kind of forces you through a door too. That it's whatever I feel like right now in the moment, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And like if you follow that path, then you're pretty much eating like, you know, nonstop Cheetos and McDoubles every day and laying in your bed and not doing anything, right? And just calling people over to, you know, suck you, and that's about it, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
if you're living the full hedonism life and you're living the full Christian life, to me, those are both narrow pathways where you're stuck with only one option, that door, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, red pill is more about exploring options because, you know, options is power at the end of the day.
Correct.
You don't want to pigeonhole yourself when you don't have to. And I think that's one of the good parts of the red pill is, you know, they call it a praxeology or a toolbox.
Yeah.
It gives you options. It gives you new ways to look at things. It doesn't necessarily force you down a hole like you have to do this, you have to do that. They just say, hey, if girls aren't looking your way, here's a couple ways why that might be a problem. Here's a couple solutions, you know. Pick what works for you, right? It's not necessarily you have to do this. This is the only way to Chad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I think one of the common examples is like a lot of guys do, and that's when they kind of get spurgy on red pill. And they're like, dude, you have to lift. If you don't deadlift 500, you'll never get a girl. You know what I mean? Correct. But there's dudes. One of my friends around here, you might have seen him around, Joshua Vorklev. He's or Korvlev. I might have said that wrong. Sorry, Joshua. But he's the guy with muscular dystrophy in a wheelchair.
Oh, I fucking love that guy.
Yeah. So yeah, he's a friend of mine. We DM a lot, and he literally can barely move his hands and his face and his neck, and that's it. And guess what? He's not a virgin. He's had multiple girlfriends. He's showed me more proof than I ever wanted to see. You know what I mean? He sent me some photos that I definitely will not share here of some of his exes. And like, that kind of just defeats the point of like that guy that's like, oh, you got to deadlift 500, bro. Dude, this guy can't move. He has somebody help him dress and stuff. Not to like make fun of everything, but that's the reality. And guess what? He has multiple ex-girlfriends, and he's definitely not a virgin, right?
Yeah. Bro, and Conk, like, check this out.
Yeah.
You know, I feel, how many fucking sermons have you heard? You know, God is a loving father. Okay, if our God is a loving father, and I have a son named Joshua Courtleave, and he has fucking muscular dystrophy, and he fucking pulls it off of having sex with his caretakers like multiple times, like, I'm gonna be proud of him. I'm gonna be really proud of him as a father to a son, because that's fucking epic what he accomplished and what he did. And I think we need to like recapture that. Like, God is a father, and like he's gonna be proud of his son of like what he did. Like sexual competency, that is a, we argued about rites of passage. That is a sort of rite of passage, and I think God as a father is fucking proud of his son for accomplishing that.
Yeah, it's weird. I think it can be. I wouldn't say it always is, because I know a lot of idiots that have kids. You know what I mean? Still like temper tantrums, and the fact that they have kids proves that they lost their virginity, right? But they're still thinking like 13-year-olds, right? I know quite a few kids, even guys I grew up with in high school. They've got like 3 kids, but dude, they're still the 8th grade kid I know, right?
Well, yeah.
They didn't really level up their thinking. I think it can be for some people, but I wouldn't blanket statement that, right? And that's kind of my thing, is like, most of life in faith, in your own awareness and all of your thoughts and things you do, it is extremely individualistic and subjective. And I think that's one of the biggest transitions between Old Testament and New Testament. Old Testament was, you know, grouped together, you know, and have these rules and have these societies and have this patriarchal family for your own survival and perpetuation. But I think, especially with like the writings of Jesus and Paul, they kind of did away with rules, right? Now it's about the individual, right? Yeah, you know, you're supposed to, relative to how much you're following your mission with God, it should look like you hate your mother and father and brother and sister, right? And like, it's no longer about family ties like the TradCon blue pill says it is still, right? Like, how many guys on Twitter do you say that are TradCons that are like, the best way to show you love God is having a wife and 2.5 kids, right? That doesn't apply anymore to me. That doesn't apply anymore now that we're in this age of fulfillment. Christ did die for sins. We're now in the church age. We're no longer in the you know, the Old Testament age. It's all out the window. It's a free for all, but in a happy way, not in a scary way. If that makes sense.
Yeah, all things are permissible. Not everything's beneficial.
And I mean, I can't think of which letters, and it might have been Thessalonians, but people were bitching to Paul that like, oh, this guy's preaching the gospel, but he's doing it really disrespectfully and for his own pride and ego, right? And Paul's like, cool, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, obviously he was committing the sin of pride or ego or vanity or whatever you want to do, but they're like, well, he's still preaching the gospel, something could still be done, right? Out of that, even if he's doing other stuff. And it's really because I think at the end of the day, it's not your business. You know what I mean? And is it Acts? I can't remember which book it is, but they talk about like when you go to people and you shake the dust off your feet because they didn't want to listen. You know what I mean? I see that so much as like the red pill version of outcome independence, right?
Yeah.
You know, you shoot your shot, and you can even relate it to like asking a woman to get rejected. Okay, you shot your shot, you know, shake the dust off your feet, move on. It's no longer my business, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
That was Philippians. I believe Paul was in prison, and he says, even if they preach from selfish ambition, he was glad that the gospel of Christ is preached. And I've been, you know, I was praying this morning, even before, you know, talking to you, and I just felt reminded, you know, St. Paul said, you know, I know nothing but Jesus Christ and him crucified. Like, obviously, St. Paul, he was, a Pharisee, circumcised on the 8th day, a Hebrew of Hebrews, all these certain things that he was a very accomplished man, that so much that King Agrippa said that his great learning, had caused him to go mad. But really, he'd gone mad of his love for Jesus Christ. And he said in the book of Philippians that he counted everything as lost in comparison to the attaining Christ, the knowledge of Jesus Christ. So for me, I was a virgin for 29 years, but this went around the Christian blogosphere for a while. It was becoming a fucking idol for me. Virginity was an idol for me.
You worship celibacy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
God cares about sex. He cares about everything, but you don't have to choose God or sex. You have to give up whatever the fuck God wants you to give up. Like if it's your firstborn son with Abraham, I mean, that's between you and the fucking Child Protective Services. I don't endorse it. You give up whatever the fuck God tells you to give up, but it's not specifically like, oh, sex. It's about putting him fucking first. And for me, it was like every fucking day, just my biology in its like drive for sex. It was becoming more about sex or my lack thereof. It was fucking distracting me from God.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And this kind of wanted to bring me something else you brought up in that video, the thoughts video, where you talked about the "if you love me, you'll keep my commandments" part.
Yes.
And how many people reverse that God will only love you if you keep his commandments. And it's such the opposite. Like it spits in the face of everything Jesus said,
Yeah, man. It's so what happened was I was here in Florida campaigning for Ron DeSantis. I don't know. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm fucking glad he won. Like he's great compared to the other guy. And I'm going door to door in 2018 and fucking I go up to this man's house. I knock on the door. I walk away and he comes up to me just like this middle-aged white man. And he just was real crotchety, like, hey, man, like, what the fuck are you doing on my lawn kind of thing. And, looking back, I could see he was sexually frustrated. You just see it on people sometimes. And we get to talking, I'm Ron DeSantis, like middle-class white guy. Oh, I fucking love Ron DeSantis. I love the Republican. And then I get to the point in the conversation, we share our faith, and sex comes up because it always comes up because it's on my fucking mind. And he says, well, for me, brother, I prayed to Jesus and Jesus told me, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. And he took that to mean, that he couldn't have sex. But I chewed on it, for the next 2 fucking years. And I think he got it fucking wrong. Am I condemning this man? No, but Jesus does speak in parables and he does speak in riddles for us to seek and to find him. And I believe, to put it in Rich Cooper terms, that, I fucking did the work. I did the work. I did the fucking inner work to get to that conclusion. If someone else can listen to it from me and perhaps like skip steps in that process, more power to them. But like that's the secret to that verse is just to take it for face value when Jesus says, if you love me, then you will keep my commandments.
Yeah. So yeah, it's almost like how I always talk about it is like side effects versus the main issue, right? So example, if you have a cold or a flu or the Backstreet Boys reunion tour, which is a name for something that's going around right now that makes you wear face masks. It's going to come with coughing and sneezing, right? Those are symptoms or side effects of what's going on, right?
Yeah.
However, you could still cough and sneeze and not have anything wrong with you, right? Maybe you had pepper near your nose, or maybe you got something stuck in your throat, right? You can cough and sneeze without that, but when you do have it, those just kind of come bipartisan.
Yes.
So when I see those things like, if you love me, then you'll keep my commandments, it's not declaring you go cough and sneeze. It says, okay, if you do love God and that's your sickness, right? If that's your cold, then you'll probably tell what's going on, of like the coughing and sneezing, or it's like the fruits of the tree, right? You'll know a tree by its fruits. It's not saying, oh, go find the perfect fruit, you know what I mean? And consciously think about your fruits. It's just, if you're a good tree, you'll have fruits, right? It's more talking about the base issue than the works behind it, right? The works will come naturally if you're already in that base set of loving God or loving Jesus or anything like that.
These are the works of God, to believe in the one that he has sent.
Mm-hmm.
That's gospel. That's literally gospel. This is the work of God, to believe in the one that he has sent.
Yeah.
And we complicate that. Like we add, I mean, you see, in the Bible, like the Council of Jerusalem, they said, don't eat food with like blood in it, and don't eat food sacrificed to idols. I mean, like, hardly any of us fucking understand what that means these days. Like, they were fleshing it out. Like, the point, there was these core principles, and then like you flesh it out, and people take their individual fleshed out reality and try to put it on someone else when maybe it doesn't apply.
Yeah. By the way, I just want a little side note, funny thing, that I have heard people interpret that don't eat food sacrificed to idols as being Christian vegan, because all of those cows are slaughtered in the god of capitalism.
I mean, holy.
Yeah. Some Christians believe the darndest things, right?
Yeah, holy moly, Batman. What kind of mental gymnastics is that?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the rule of the day, is mental gymnastics. A lot of people, like, you probably know the words exegesis and eisegesis.
Yeah. Hermeneutic. Yeah. Sure.
We live in a world of eisegesis. We just want to believe something, and we'll just pick and prod any little word or verse or clickbait article that agrees with us, right? We're not actually trying to look in and see what's going on and then making our opinion from that, right?
Right. And that's like the beauty of the Protestant Reformation, or at least, I'm a Catholic, but the beauty of the Protestant Reformation was this like return to simplicity. We want the simple gospel, like St. Paul said, I claim to know nothing but Jesus Christ and him crucified. Like, of course, now I have red pill knowledge. I can't unsee that. When we ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you can't unsee that. Like, they knew they were naked. Like, it's unreversible. It's already there. But our life is in remembering Jesus Christ and him crucified. And it's to the point where it's like, I just need to repeat this like a broken record. Like, this is almost like annoying to me, but like, this is really where my life comes from, is that confession of just that, the confession of faith, Jesus Christ crucified. I mean, my prayers a lot of the times is just like repeating the name Jesus. It's like over and over again, just like Jesus, 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 like over and over again.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting too, because so this will sound, so you might have heard my background story before. I've said it on a couple other channels when I was of like, I grew up Christianese, and then I went atheist, and then I came back to Christianity from debating Mormons. So it's funny that actually Mormons were the spur of me getting back into faith.
I've had some Mormon friends.
Yeah. So yeah, which another little side project is I treat Mormons like I treat the police. Is fuck the institution as a whole, but I'm not going to judge it on individual people. Like the big manosphere Mormons are like Tanner Guzzi and the other one, the guy that wrote Art of Manliness. Have you heard of that blog? It was pretty famous around. Yeah, that guy's a Mormon.
Ender's Game was from a Mormon.
Yeah. And so yeah, I don't judge Mormons based on that specifically, but Mormonism as an institution as a whole, fuck them, right?
Yeah, I mean the golden.
And I also feel that way about the police, but that's a different thing.
Well, Joseph Smith had many wives. They weren't all beautiful, but he had a lot of them.
Yeah, they were young, so
so
put it mildly.
That's another point. Like, King David in the Bible had concubines. Like, sexual morality is. C.S. Lewis talks about this in Mere Christianity, about the relative nature of sexuality. Like maybe a man had one wife or multiple wives, but you didn't take his wives from him. So today, again, I think it's a unique situation. Going back to Ecclesiastes, it says, there's nothing new under the sun, but as far as we know, this just seems like a new situation. Another fucking verse I'm gonna say from Ecclesiastes, not a fucking verse, but a great verse. It says,
yeah, that's Song of Solomon. That's a different book.
Yeah, it's a book. He did a lot of fucking.
Yeah, true story.
And what I don't want to get. I'm like going in different. So in Ecclesiastes, it says, do not be overly evil, that you would die before your time. But it also says, why be overly righteous and destroy yourself? That's in the Bible. It says, "Why be overly righteous?" And so that verse, Conk, I was chewing on for years. Like for years, I'm just chewing on this verse. Like, and some people will say being too heavily minded to be no earthly good, but in the Bible it says, why be so righteous? Why destroy yourself? And here I am in the 21st century. Men and women, we're realizing like marriage doesn't work anymore. Like, certainly some of them do. The owner of the Catholic store, that I was part of, she has a great 30-year marriage. My parents have a great marriage. My grandparents had a great marriage, but like for you and me, like, yes, maybe we're strong men. I mean, you're a strong man, Conk. I'm a strong man. We're red pill aware, but we're fighting a 7 billion person culture of just feminism and female actualization that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. I mean, this is new for them too. Like they're used to being under the patriarchy lock and key, so they're going buck wild, and we can't grab them by the ear and pull them around. Like we've got to let them do their thing, and
exactly
protect ourselves in the meantime.
Yeah, I think the interesting word you said there in the beginning was that we're trying to fight 7 billion people of culture, and to me, that's the trad conniest thing, right? Is they're trying to fight the decline of Western civilization.
Yeah.
Or, we could do the Aaron Clarey and just enjoy the decline, let it happen, right? Yeah. It's going to happen. You're not going to fight 7 billion people, and you're just going to piss yourself out and burn yourself out trying to do it, right? And so, and like going back to what I was talking about before, it's no longer about groups. It's no longer about society. No. It's about you and the individuals around you, right?
Yes.
And this one I say, some people disagree with me, but like God cares a whole lot more about the relationship between you and your neighbor than who's president.
Yeah. Right? In your life, for sure.
Yeah. And so like, I don't think God cares that much about the big swooping waves of everything like that. It's really between you and others, right?
It's between you and others.
We're now in an individualistic life. And that's kind of the way it is. And if you're trying to fight ideologies and try to fight them all, and you think you're the one that's going to save the West, God, I hate that term. Like, just let the West die. Like, what's wrong with that? Like, I'm not saying the West is good or bad. I'm just saying, I mean, if everybody's, I think pretty accurately predicting it's going to die out soon, cool. Like, we're still going to be humans. We're still going to have the same problems, nothing new under the sun. Yeah. And life's going to move on. Which reminds me, I also hate everybody that says, like, oh, the last generation was the most, or this generation's way more corrupt than my generation. Bullshit. Like, it's all different versions of decrepity, just with a different flavor. It's like it's all ice cream, but last generation was chocolate and now it's raisin oatmeal. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's all ice cream. It's all the same kind of human problems and human conditions, and life always goes in cycles, Yeah,
man.
I hate people trying to save the West, especially if they put a religious connotation on it, right? God wants us to save the West. God doesn't give a shit about the West.
No, I mean,
he cares about you and the people around you. That's about it.
Yeah, C.S. Lewis is like, fucking nations come and go, but that individual in front of you is going to live forever.
Exactly. That OG Lion Witch in the Wardrobe guy.
Hey, I love me some C.S. Lewis, man. Did he have a mistress or did he marry her? I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't really get into biographies that much unless it's somebody specific I'm reading up on. But yeah, man, I think this is a good talk. I might have a final question for you.
Okay.
And this is something, it's more of me just busting your balls. But you did say you're all for Jesus is my boyfriend music. And I think that is silly.
So
where does that even come from? I can't imagine anybody thinking that's a good thing. But yeah, shoot your shot. Give us your pitch on that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Conk. So like a big part, like I prayed and, I felt like God gave me the name Tom Bombadil to use as my alias. And a big part of who Tom Bombadil is in the books is he's a man that he sings a lot. I'm not going to sing for you, but he's very much about the music. And in Lord of the Rings, the world was created by a song. So I'm a big fan of like Jesus culture, Bethel, IHOP style, spontaneous worship music. You might hate it. I get it, brother. Like it.
Yeah.
Might...
I call it emotional manipulation, but that's just me.
No, man. I mean, I made a video where, like, I mean, you sing about shit. Like you sing like, God, won't you ravish my heart? Like that's a very sexual term that, you know, we're using in music. So when you have these like these spontaneous worship songs, and you're singing like Misty Edwards, I think I mentioned one time in the chat, Misty Edwards. She's kind of like a consecrated virgin. She's like 40 years old. You know, IHOP's biggest worship leader.
Oh, yeah.
I saw an interview with her, and she said, you know, well, I like bad boys. I mean, she's never been married, but she just in her heart she likes bad boys. And I would listen to her music while I was single. I mean, God like led me to that, and she would just, I mean, it's like she wanted God to fuck her or something, the way she would be singing it. And I think that's the analogy between us, you know, like us, we're marrying people and it's complete shit. And then the bride of Christ, when, you know, you take the red pill, you realize women are complete shit. But then you look at yourself, well, I'm complete shit too, as far as being the bride of Christ. Like it all comes full circle.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't know. I definitely disagree with those points, and it's also mostly because the basis of I still debate back and forth if I think IHOP is even Christian, but they're a little more culty to me. My brother's involved in it, and we're in the Kansas City area. I'm a hop, skip, and jump away from like IHOP University and the prayer room 24/7. Like I can get there in like 15-minute drive from here. So
I go to sleep with that on like many nights.
Yeah, I mean, and if it works for you, that's awesome. I just think, like, when it comes to like worship music and everything, I think that in itself is kind of a corporation, right? You can't say they're not making money off it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I see it more as a Christian kosher thing because, and I'll send you a video and maybe I'll put it in the description too, talking about one of my favorite pastors of all time. I've said it before, is Sean McCraney, and he was a Mormon that eventually turned Christian, evangelical Christian, and then he gave away evangelical Christian and started his own thing called Christianarchy, okay. And it's not political anarchy, it's spiritual anarchy, in that all of these dogmas and all of these qualifications we put on people are complete bullshit, right? And one of the things that the root of, and it's also a root of my faith, is talking about the thief on the cross, right? The thief on the cross, he literally said one or two sentences and he was guaranteed paradise, you know, which we translate as heaven, right? Yeah. But like, they didn't ask him, okay, do you speak in tongues? Okay, did you go to these worship services? Okay, did you even repent of all your sin? That's something debatable. Did they ask him if he's pre-tribulation or post-tribulation? Yeah. Is he predestination? Is he Calvin or Arminian? Yeah. You know, all of that's bullshit. None of that matters. He wasn't even baptized. He didn't even take communion, right? He probably wasn't married because he was a terrorist, but who knows, maybe. Yeah. Like, that was it. That is the only objective measure right there. What the thief on the cross did. That's the bare minimum faith. And most people take that as a negative thing. Oh, you're only doing the bare minimum. Mm-hmm. No, what it means is that's the limit of our objective knowing. That's the smallest example. And everything else is humans making shit up. Right?
Yeah, man. I would agree with that, bro. The simple gospel right there. Like, you know, what did he say? Like, this is the Son of God?
Yeah. And like, remember me and stuff like that.
Remember me.
And like, that qualified, you know, for God so loved the world, he gave his son, that whoever believes in him, that qualified it. You know what I mean? Everything else, people freak out about, like, what kind of baptism are you doing? Are you doing it as a baby or as an adult? Right. Are you doing this or that? It's all bullshit rules that humans made up, right?
I got so sick of it, bro. Think of if you're 29 years old, you want to have sex, and you're getting all this shit. You know it's fucking bullshit. I'm not stupid. I went to University of Florida, but I'm sitting there in fucking fear and trembling, working out my salvation. And it's just bullshit after bullshit after bullshit. I mean, thank God for you, Conk. Thank God for this whole fucking manosphere. Just fucking help me break out and, just be like, fuck it, man. Like
Yeah.
fuck that bullshit. Fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is a good concluding thought that we could leave off on. But like, when you're looking at that root, that thief on the cross, the Christianarchy of how me and Sean McCraney put it, it's everything else after that. We're not saying you're right or wrong. We're saying it's subjective, right?
Yeah.
Can you live your whole life never speaking in tongues and being good? Awesome. Can you live your whole life, doing the 1.5, the one wife and 2.5 kids and live your life? Cool. You know what I mean? It's all subjective. It's all between you and God and your faith, right?
Yeah.
We're going back to the whole individual theology. We're individuals now. We don't care about, the family unit isn't our salvation anymore. It's you and God exclusively.
Yes.
So that's why I'm against blanket statements and these big dogmas and doctrines and rules.
Yes.
Because you're forcing your rules on other people, but we don't know their life. Like, you can't measure how spiritual someone is, right? I can't say, oh, your relationship with God is 4 out of 10 and mine's 6 out of 10. I'm better. Like, I don't know that. I don't know how God talks to you. I don't know what God says is okay or not okay. And nobody can, right?
Right.
And so that's just the end of the day. Faith right now is a completely individual, subjective experience. And once you start building into those ideologies and those rules and those dogmas, you're taking the humanity out of it, right? You're taking the individual out of it, and you're going back to old collectivist salvation, which is not which Christ freed us from. So that's my ending spiel. I think that's a good way to end. You got any final thoughts, closing statements, Tom?
The verse, how great is it when two brothers agree right now? How great is it when two brothers agree? And I fucking love it, Conk, like the thief on the cross. And it's the same thing as I was saying, St. Paul, I claim to know nothing but Jesus and him crucified.
People want you to listen to Slayer. That's something I always talk about too when it comes to music. Like, can I glorify God while listening to Tool? What's saying I can't? Because he doesn't say the word Jesus enough. Like, that's not how we dictate what's Christian in music, But I think that's a good show. Thank you, Tom, for coming on.
Thanks,
hopefully we'll see you Sunday. It's on our Religion Zero is going to be on Brooke Potter's channel.
Sweet.
Look in YouTube, Brooke Potter. We'll all be there. We're actually going to go deep dive into like atheism and Christianity and how that applies to us. Like, why aren't we atheists? Which each side does, and it's not just going to be shitting on Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins or something. We're gonna have an actually open talk talking about like why are we Christians? Why aren't we atheists? Like, what are the actual points going on here, kind of thing.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, so that'll be really fun, and that's on Brooke Potter's channel. Google it. All right, you all have a good night or morning, whatever that means.
Bye-bye.